The massive space station, Kepler Prime, hung in the void between star systems, its silver hull gleaming under the light of distant suns. Ships from across the galaxy filled the docking bays. Sleek Vorthak warships bristled with weapons. The smooth, organic curves of Zeridian vessels pulsed with bioenergy. Smaller craft from dozen other species crowded the remaining spaces. Ambassador Lisa Carter stepped off the human transport ship and looked around the docking bay. Her dark hair was pulled back in a simple style, and she wore a plain blue diplomatic uniform. She carried herself with quiet confidence, but her eyes showed the weight of what she knew was coming. "Ma'am, their security teams are waiting," said Captain Ryan Bell, her aide. He was a young man with nervous energy, constantly checking his communication device. "They want to scan all our equipment." Lisa nodded. "Let them. We have nothing to hide." She smiled slightly at the irony of her words. They had everything to hide, but nothing these aliens would find with their scanners. The security checkpoint was crowded with alien beings. The Vorthak guards were tall and muscular, with gray skin and sharp teeth. They wore heavy armor and carried energy weapons. Their leader, a scarred veteran, stepped forward. "Human Ambassador Carter," he growled in accented English. "You will submit to full scanning procedures." "Of course," Lisa replied calmly. She stood still while the alien devices hummed around her. The scanners found nothing unusual, just a woman in diplomatic clothing with a small communication device. Ryan went through the same process. The aliens paid special attention to his equipment, but it was all standard diplomatic gear, nothing that would concern them. After the security check, they were escorted through the station's corridors. Kepler Prime was impressive, with high ceilings and walls covered in symbols from different alien cultures. But Lisa noticed the heavy security presence. Armed guards at every junction, shield generators humming behind hidden panels. This was not just a meeting place, it was a fortress. The main conference chamber was enormous. A circular table dominated the center, with seats arranged by species. Viewing screens showed star, maps, and tactical displays. The lighting was dim, creating shadows that made the assembled aliens look even more intimidating. War Chieftain Gextar of the Vorthak Empire sat at the head of the table. He was larger than his guards, with ritual scars covering his arms and face. His armor was decorated with trophies from conquered worlds. When he saw Lisa enter, he showed his teeth in what might have been a smile. "The human representative arrives at last," Gextar said. His voice was deep and threatening. "We have been patient long enough." Prime Speaker Zathek of the Zeridian Collective sat to Gextar's right. The Zeridians looked like tall, thin humans, but their skin had a blue tint, and their eyes were solid, black. They were known throughout the galaxy for their cold intelligence and mathematical precision. "Indeed," Zathek said in a voice like ice. "The calculations are complete. The outcomes are clear. This meeting is merely a formality." Lisa took her assigned seat across from the alien leaders. Ryan sat beside her, quietly activating his recording equipment. Around the table sat representatives from the other council species. The Corvani delegation looked like large amphibians, their skin glistening with moisture. The Luxians appeared as shifting forms of pure energy contained in mechanical bodies. "Thank you all for gathering here," Lisa began. "Earth values this opportunity for dialogue." Gextar laughed, a harsh sound that echoed through the chamber. "Dialogue? You mean surrender terms. Your fleet is destroyed. Your colonies are defenseless. Your Admiral Morrison and his ships were obliterated at Titan Ridge." Lisa's expression did not change. Admiral Morrison fought bravely at Titan Ridge. He died bravely, corrected Zathek. Our sensors confirmed the destruction of his entire task force. 47 human vessels reduced to debris in less than 6 hours. Ryan shifted in his seat, but Lisa remained calm. She had trained for this moment for months. Every word, every gesture had been planned. The Battle of Titan Ridge was certainly decisive, she said carefully. Yes, it was, Gextar agreed. It decided that humanity is no match for the combined forces of the Galactic Council. Your species showed promise, but you expanded too quickly. You took systems that belonged to others. Now you face the consequences. The Corvani representative, Speaker Glubmoth, spoke in a wet, bubbling voice. The humans fought with courage. They deserve honorable terms. Honor? Zathek's black eyes fixed on the amphibian. They are a young species that needs guidance. The terms we offer are generous. Lisa listened to the aliens discuss humanity's fate as if humans were not even present. It was exactly what she had expected. These beings saw Earth as a minor irritation, finally brought under control. They had no idea what was really coming. The Luxian delegate, a being of crackling energy called Prime Node 7, projected words directly into the translation system. The human expansion has destabilized 3 sectors. Order must be restored. Order will be restored, Gextar promised. Under Council authority, Lisa checked the time display on her wrist device. Everything was proceeding on schedule. In exactly 47 minutes, the real negotiations would begin. Ambassador Carter, Zathek said, your silence suggests you understand the situation. Good. Acceptance will make this process smoother for everyone. I understand the situation perfectly, Lisa replied. Perhaps better than you realize. Gextar's eyes narrowed. Explain. Lisa folded her hands on the table. You believe you have won a war. You believe Admiral Morrison is dead. You believe humanity is defeated and ready to accept whatever terms you offer. These are not beliefs, Zathek said coldly. These are facts confirmed by sensor data and battlefield intelligence. Facts can be misleading, Lisa said. Sometimes what appears to be an ending is really a beginning. The alien leaders exchanged glances. Gextar leaned forward, his scarred face showing irritation. Speak plainly, human. Do you accept that your species is defeated? Lisa met his gaze without flinching. I accept that you believe we are defeated. That belief will make what happens next much more interesting. She looked around the table at the assembled aliens. Proud warriors and cold intellectuals. Ancient species that had ruled the galaxy for thousands of years. They saw humanity as children playing with weapons too dangerous for them to handle. Soon they would learn how wrong they were. Ryan's communication device chirped softly. He glanced at it and nodded almost imperceptibly to Lisa. The signal from Earth Command had arrived. Everything was in position. Lisa smiled for the first time since entering the chamber. It was not a diplomatic smile. It was the expression of someone who knew a secret that would change everything. Shall we begin discussing terms? She asked. The real show was about to start. War Chieftain Gextar activated a holographic display above the conference table. Star maps appeared, showing human colonies marked in red. One by one, the red markers began disappearing. These are the systems humanity will evacuate immediately, Gextar announced. His clawed finger pointed to each location as it vanished from the display. New Shanghai Colony, Port Liberty, and the entire Kepler Belt mining operation. Your people have 30 standard days to remove all personnel and equipment. Lisa watched, the display without emotion. 3 colonies that had taken Earth 20 years to establish were being erased with casual indifference. Behind her calm expression, she was counting down the minutes until this charade would end. Prime Speaker Zathek stood and manipulated the hologram with precise movements. New images appeared showing industrial facilities and research stations. All military production will cease, Zathek declared. Your shipyards at Luna Base and the orbital platforms around Mars will be dismantled. The equipment will be transferred to Council oversight for redistribution. You mean you're stealing our technology? Ryan said before he could stop himself. Gextar's laugh was like grinding metal. Taking? No, young human. This is payment for the damage your expansion has caused. 3 Vorthak supply convoys destroyed. 17 Zeridian research outposts abandoned because of human territorial claims. The Council has been very patient with your species. Lisa remained silent, letting them continue their performance. She knew every word was being recorded and would be broadcast across human space within hours. When her people saw this arrogance, they would understand why the plan had been necessary. The Corvani representative, Speaker Glubmoth, shifted uncomfortably in his moisture-filled chair. Water sloshed as he spoke. Perhaps we should discuss compensation rather than punishment. The humans fought honorably. Honor does not rebuild destroyed stations, Zathek replied coldly. Nor does it compensate for lost resources. The mathematical requirements are clear. A new section of the hologram activated, showing human fleet compositions and strength estimates. The numbers were pathetically small compared to the alien forces arrayed against Earth. Your remaining fleet will be reduced to police vessels only, Gextar continued. No ship larger than a corvette class, no weapons capable of orbital bombardment, no faster than light engines above civilian grade, Lisa finally spoke. You're asking us to completely disarm. We are not asking, Zathek corrected. We are informing you of the new reality. Your military adventures are over. Humanity will focus on peaceful pursuits under Council guidance. Council. Guidance, Lisa repeated. What does that mean exactly? The Luxian delegate, Prime Node 7, projected its response directly into the translation matrix. The mechanical voice was emotionless as it explained. Human technological development will be monitored. Research into weapons, faster than light, travel, and energy manipulation will require Council approval. Educational curricula will be adjusted to emphasize cooperation rather than independence. Lisa felt a chill that had nothing to do with the station's climate control. They were not just demanding surrender. They wanted to lobotomize human civilization, turning Earth into a dependent client state. Furthermore, Gextar added with obvious satisfaction, humanity will contribute to galactic security. Your people will serve in auxiliary roles within Council military forces. Consider it an honor. Few species are granted such responsibility so early in their development. Auxiliary roles, Lisa said. You mean cannon fodder? I mean valuable support positions, Gextar corrected. Human reflexes and adaptability have proven useful in dangerous situations. Your soldiers will serve with distinction in Council expeditionary forces. The meaning was clear. Young humans would be recruited to fight in alien wars, doing the jobs too hazardous for the Council's own people. It was a system designed to bleed Earth's population while preventing any military buildup that might threaten alien authority. Ryan's hands clenched into fists, but Lisa placed a restraining hand on his arm. Not yet. Everything had to happen. According to schedule, Zathek manipulated the hologram again, showing economic projections and resource allocation charts. Earth's industrial capacity will be redirected toward useful purposes. Food production for outer rim colonies, raw materials extraction, basic manufacturing. Your people will find meaningful work, contributing to galactic civilization. Lisa understood. The code words. Earth would become a resource extraction colony, its people working to supply alien expansion while being denied the technology to advance their own civilization. These terms seem rather one-sided, Lisa observed. Nonsense, Gextar replied. In exchange for compliance, humanity receives protection from hostile species, access to limited council technology, and the opportunity to prove your worthiness for eventual full membership. How long would this probationary period last? Lisa asked. Zathek consulted his data display. Conservative estimates suggest 50 to 75 years, possibly longer if compliance issues arise. Lisa almost smiled. They were talking about keeping humanity subjugated for the rest of the century. 3 generations of humans would live and die under alien control before Earth might regain basic independence. Speaker Glubmoth made uncomfortable gurgling sounds. Perhaps the terms could be less restrictive. The humans showed creativity in their military campaigns. Creativity that led to unnecessary conflict, Zathek responded. Structure and guidance will channel human energy in productive directions. The alien leaders continued discussing humanity's future as if Lisa and Ryan were not present. They debated the finer points of technological restrictions and resource quotas with the casual interest of people planning a garden. Lisa checked her chronometer again. 28 minutes remaining. Soon these arrogant beings would learn that their careful calculations had missed a few important variables. Ambassador Carter, Gextar said, finally acknowledging her presence again. You have been remarkably quiet during these discussions. Do you have questions about the terms? Lisa looked around the table at the assembled alien representatives. Beings from species that had ruled the galaxy for millennia, they saw humanity as a brief annoyance, finally brought to heel through superior force and careful planning. I do have questions, Lisa said slowly, but I think they'll be answered soon enough. Then you accept these terms? Zathek pressed. You understand that humanity's period of reckless expansion is over? Lisa smiled, and for the first time it reached her eyes. Oh, I understand that someone's period of reckless expansion is about to be over. The question is whose? Gextar's scarred face darkened. Explain that statement. Lisa glanced at Ryan, who was watching his communication device intently. He looked up and gave her the slightest nod. The final signal had arrived. You've been very thorough in explaining what you want from humanity, Lisa said, standing slowly. Now let me tell you what humanity wants from you. The alien stirred uneasily. This was not going according to their script. Absolute withdrawal from all human territory, full reparations for the colonies you've attacked, recognition of Earth's sovereignty over a 50-light-year sphere, and a formal apology for this pathetic attempt at intimidation. Gextar rose to his full height, towering over the human ambassador. You are either very brave or very foolish, Ambassador Carter. Lisa checked her chronometer one final time. I'm about to find out which. The conference chamber fell silent. Every alien representative stared at Lisa Carter as if she had suddenly grown a second head. The holographic displays still showed their careful plans for humanity's subjugation, but the atmosphere in the room had changed completely. War Chieftain Gextar was the first to recover from his shock. His scarred face twisted into what might have been amusement. "Did you just make demands? You? The representative of a defeated species?" "I made an offer," Lisa corrected calmly. "Those are humanity's terms for peace." The laughter that erupted from the Vorthak delegation was like the sound of breaking glass. Even some of the other species made sounds that translated as humor. Prime Speaker Zathek simply stared at Lisa with his solid black eyes, as if she were a mathematical problem that refused to solve correctly. "Ambassador Carter," Zathek said slowly, "perhaps you do not fully understand your situation. Allow me to clarify with precise figures." The holographic display changed to show fleet strengths and battle statistics. Human ships appeared as tiny, red dots, vastly outnumbered by the blue symbols representing Council forces. "Your total remaining military strength, 43 vessels of various classes," Zathek continued. "Council forces currently in this sector, over 800 ships. The ratio is approximately 18-1 in our favor. Plus reinforcements already en route," added Gextar. "Another 300 vessels will arrive within 10 days. Lisa nodded as if this information was mildly interesting rather than devastating. "Those are impressive numbers. They represent reality," Zathek said. "Mathematical certainty. Your Admiral Morrison learned this at Titan Ridge when his fleet was destroyed." "About Admiral Morrison," Lisa said, and her tone made several aliens lean forward. "You seem very confident that he's dead." "Our sensors recorded the destruction of his flagship," Gextar growled. "The UES Defiance exploded in a quantum cascade failure. No debris larger than a shuttle survived." "Your sensors recorded the destruction of a ship," Lisa agreed. "But sensor data can be misleading, especially when the people being scanned want it to be misleading." Prime Node 7 projected a mechanical voice filled with electronic interference. "Explain this statement." Lisa glanced at Ryan, who was holding his communication device with steady hands despite the tension in the room. His screen showed a countdown timer, and the numbers were approaching 0. "You know," Lisa said conversationally, "one of the interesting things about humans is that we don't think like other species. Where you see mathematical certainty, we see variables that can be changed. Where you see inevitable defeat, we see opportunities for creative solutions." Speaker Glubmoth's throat pouch inflated nervously. "What kind of solutions?" "The kind that require patience and perfect timing," Lisa replied. She activated her own communication device, checking the timer that matched Ryan's display. 3 minutes and 17 seconds remaining. "You're stalling," Gextar accused. "Hoping for some kind of miraculous rescue that will never come." "Not stalling," Lisa said. "Waiting. There's a difference." Zathek consulted his own tactical displays. "Our sensors show no human ships within 50 light-years of this station. Your nearest fleet elements are 6 days away at maximum speed." "Your sensors are very good," Lisa acknowledged. "They can detect conventional faster-than-light approaches from remarkable distances." "Conventional approaches?" The Luxian representative's energy form flickered with what might have been concern. "What other kind are there?" Lisa smiled, and this time it was not diplomatic at all. "You're about to find out." She stood up from her chair, causing several aliens to reach for weapons, but Lisa simply walked to the center of the conference chamber, where the holographic displays cast shifting patterns of light across her face. 2 weeks ago at Titan Ridge, you destroyed what you thought was Admiral Morrison's fleet, she began. 47 ships reduced to debris, just as you said. But those weren't the only human vessels in the system. Impossible, Zathek said flatly. Our sensor sweeps were complete. Your sensor sweeps detected every ship that wanted to be detected, Lisa corrected. Human technology has made some interesting advances recently. We've learned to hide things. In places your sensors can't reach. Gextar was growing angry. Enough riddles. If you have something to say it plainly. Lisa checked her timer again. 1 minute and 41 seconds. Admiral Morrison didn't die at Titan Ridge. His flagship wasn't destroyed. What you saw was an elaborate deception designed to make you think exactly what you think now. Why would humans fake their own defeat? Speaker Glubmoth asked, genuinely puzzled. Because sometimes the best way to win a war is to let your enemy think they've already won, Lisa explained. While you've been celebrating your victory and planning our subjugation, Earth's scientists have been working on a project that will change everything. The alien representatives exchanged worried glances. This was not going according to their careful plans. What project? Zathek demanded. Lisa looked around the table at faces representing species that had ruled the galaxy for thousands of years. Proud warriors and ancient intellectuals who thought they understood the limits of what was possible. We call it the quantum displacement drive, she said. It allows ships to move instantly across any distance without using conventional faster-than-light. Travel! No subspace signatures, no energy buildup, no warning. Theoretically impossible, Zathek stated. The energy requirements alone would exceed the output of a stellar core. That's what we thought too, Lisa agreed, until our scientists figured out how to borrow the energy from parallel dimensions. Very briefly. Just long enough to punch a hole through space-time. Gextar slammed his fist on the table. This is fantasy! Desperate lies from a defeated species! Is it? Lisa asked. She activated her communication device and spoke clearly. Admiral Morrison, are you receiving? Static filled the chamber for a moment. Then a familiar voice responded, clear and strong. Ambassador, Carter, this is Admiral Jake Morrison aboard the UES Liberty. I read you loud and clear. The silence that followed was profound. Every alien in the chamber stared at the communication device as if it had just spoken their personal names. Admiral, Lisa continued, our hosts were just explaining humanity's new place in the galactic order. They seem to think we should be grateful for their generous terms. Morrison's voice carried a hint of amusement. Is that so? How generous of them. Gextar found his voice first. Impossible. You're dead. Your ship was destroyed. Reports of my death have been greatly exaggerated, Morrison replied. Though I appreciate your concern. Lisa looked at her. Timer. 15 seconds remaining. Around the table, alien faces showed emotions ranging from confusion to growing fear. Admiral Morrison, she said formally, you are cleared to begin the demonstration. Acknowledged, Ambassador. Beginning quantum displacement in 10 seconds. Lisa smiled at the assembled aliens. Gentlemen, ladies, and energy beings, I suggest you look up. She began counting down aloud. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. At 0, reality broke open above Kepler Prime. The universe screamed. Space above Kepler Prime twisted and folded in ways that hurt to look at. Reality cracked like broken glass, revealing glimpses of impossible colors and geometries that existed in dimensions the mind could not process. A Thunderclap of gravitational waves rolled through the system, shaking the massive station and sending smaller ships tumbling in their docking clamps. Then, with a sound like the tearing of cosmic fabric, the UES Liberty dropped out of quantum, fold and into normal space. The battleship was enormous. Twice the length of the largest Vorthak dreadnought, its hull gleamed with unusual alloys that seemed to absorb and reflect light in patterns that shifted constantly. Weapon ports lined its flanks like the eyes of some ancient predator, and energy. Readings that made no sense flooded the station's sensors, but most impressive of all was the simple fact that it existed. Admiral Morrison's flagship, supposedly destroyed at Titan Ridge, hung in space above them like a metal mountain that had decided to fly. In the conference chamber, absolute silence reigned. Every alien representative stared at the viewing screens that showed the impossible sight. War Chieftain Gextar's mouth was open, revealing rows of sharp teeth. Prime Speaker Zathek's black eyes reflected the ship's image like dark mirrors. Even the energy being that was Prime Node 7 had stopped flickering. The station's emergency sirens began wailing. Red lights flashed as Kepler Prime's automated systems detected the massive gravitational disturbance and classified it as a potential threat. But the siren seemed thin and pathetic compared to the reality of what had just happened. Kepler Prime Control, this is Admiral Jake Morrison aboard the UES Liberty, came the voice from the communication system. Sorry about the rough arrival. The quantum displacement drive is still a bit dramatic on the exit. We're working on smoothing that out. Lisa Carter stood in the center of the chamber, watching the alien faces around her. She had imagined this moment for months, but the reality was even more satisfying than she had hoped. Captain Ryan Bell was grinning openly now, no longer bothering to hide his excitement. His communication device showed data streams from the Liberty's sensors, confirming what everyone could see with their own eyes. Impossible, Zathek whispered. The energy signature is off all known scales. No single vessel could generate that kind of power. You're right, Lisa agreed. No single vessel could. But the Liberty isn't generating power. It's borrowing it from 11 parallel dimensions, using principles your scientists haven't discovered yet. Gextar finally found his voice. Your ship. How did it get here? Our sensors detected no approaching vessels. That's because we didn't approach, Morrison's voice explained. We were already here, in a sense. The quantum displacement drive allows us to exist in multiple dimensional states simultaneously. We've been orbiting this system for the past 6 hours, just slightly out of phase with your reality. The viewing screen showed the Liberty's weapons powering up. Energy patterns that resembled lightning crawled along the ship's hull, and space itself seemed to bend around the massive vessel. This is a trick, Gextar snarled, but his voice lacked conviction. Some kind of holographic deception. Feel free to scan us, Morrison replied. In fact, I insist on it. Your sensors will confirm that we're quite real. They'll also confirm that our weapons are fully operational and locked onto targets throughout this system. Prime Node 7 projected urgent electronic sounds that translated as panic. The quantum signatures are real. This vessel exists in multiple probability states. Our targeting systems cannot achieve lock. Lisa walked to the viewing screen that showed the Liberty in all its impossible glory. Scorch marks on the hull told the story of real battles fought. The ship looked like it had been through hell and come out stronger. You wanted to know about the Battle of Titan Ridge, she said to the assembled aliens. Here's what really happened. Admiral Morrison's fleet engaged your forces exactly as planned. The ships you destroyed were real. The explosions were real. The deaths were real. Her voice hardened. But while you were focused on the obvious targets, the Liberty was testing its new displacement drive, jumping in and out of normal space, learning how to use technology that makes your fastest ships look like they're standing still. Speaker Glubmoth made worried, gurgling sounds. The crews that died? They were sacrifices? They were heroes, Lisa corrected firmly. Every person who died at Titan Ridge volunteered for a mission they knew was dangerous. They bought us the time we needed to perfect the displacement drive. Their sacrifice made this moment possible. The Liberty began moving, gliding through space with smooth grace despite its enormous size. The ship took up position directly above the station, its shadow falling across the main docking areas where the alien fleet waited. Ambassador Carter, Morrison's voice carried clearly through the chamber. I believe you mentioned something about peace terms? Indeed I did, Admiral, Lisa replied. Our hosts were just explaining their generous offer to turn humanity into a client species. How thoughtful of them, Morrison said. I assume they also mentioned the complete disarmament of our fleet and the dismantling of our colonies. They did. Very thoroughly. I see. Well, perhaps it's time we presented our counteroffer. The viewing screens changed to show tactical displays from the Liberty's computers. Targeting data appeared, highlighting every major installation, ship, and weapon platform within a 50-light-year radius. Gentlemen, ladies, and assorted energy beings. Morrison's voice took on a formal tone. This is Admiral Jake Morrison of the Earth Defense Force. I understand you've been having a discussion about humanity's place in the galactic community. Gextar struggled to regain his composure. Admiral Morrison, your appearance is unexpected, but one ship cannot change the strategic balance. We have 800 vessels in this sector alone. 803, actually, Morrison corrected. I've been counting, but you're thinking in old terms, War Chieftain. Quantity versus quality. Traditional fleet tactics versus paradigm-shifting technology. The Liberty's weapons systems began cycling through power levels that made the station's shields flicker. Energy readings spiked beyond what the alien sensors could properly measure. The quantum displacement drive isn't just about transportation, Morrison explained. It allows us to exist in multiple locations simultaneously. While you see one ship, our weapons can strike from any point in space-time within our operational range. To demonstrate, the Liberty briefly flickered, appearing to be in 3 different positions at once before solidifying back into normal space. Furthermore, Morrison continued, the displacement field that allows us to move instantly also makes us effectively untouchable. Your weapons need to exist in the same dimensional phase as their target. We can simply step sideways into parallel space whenever we choose. Zathek was frantically working with his tactical computers, trying to calculate solutions to an impossible problem. The energy requirements. How do you sustain such technology? Very carefully, Morrison replied, and with a lot of help from theoretical physicists who think in ways your people haven't discovered yet. Lisa looked around the chamber at the alien faces. Fear was replacing arrogance. Confusion was overwhelming their careful calculations. Now then, she said pleasantly, shall we discuss new terms for peace? I believe humanity has some suggestions that might interest you. The galaxy had just discovered that Earth was no longer asking for permission. Admiral Jake Morrison's hologram materialized in the center of the conference chamber, replacing the tactical displays that had dominated the room moments before. He was a tall man with gray hair and weathered features that spoke of years commanding. Ships, in dangerous places. His uniform was simple but spotless, and his eyes held the quiet confidence of someone who had just rewritten the rules of warfare. "Good evening, everyone," Morrison said, nodding politely to the assembled aliens. "I apologize for the dramatic entrance. The quantum displacement drive is still a bit rough around the edges." Behind him, 2 more holograms appeared. Captain O. Helen Foster was a compact woman with sharp features and the bearing of a professional soldier. Commander Dan Price looked younger, with the intense focus of someone who understood complex technology better than most people understood simple mathematics. "Allow me to introduce my senior staff," Morrison continued. "Captain Foster commands our tactical operations, and Commander Price heads our advanced weapons division. I thought you might want to meet the people who developed the technology you're currently witnessing." War Chieftain Gextar had recovered some of his composure, but his scarred face still showed the strain of processing impossible facts. "Admiral Morrison, your survival is surprising. But surely you understand that one ship, however advanced, cannot challenge the combined forces of the Galactic Council." Morrison smiled, and it was not a pleasant expression. "War Chieftain, with respect, you're still thinking in terms of old paradigms. Fleet actions, massed formations, conventional tactics. What you're seeing isn't just a new ship. It's proof that humanity has developed technology that makes traditional military thinking obsolete." Captain Foster stepped forward in the hologram. "The Battle of Titan Ridge was our field test," she explained. "We needed to see how alien sensor systems would react to quantum displacement technology under combat conditions." "You used your own fleet as bait," Zathek observed, his black eyes showing something that might have been respect. "The casualties were intentional." "The casualties were volunteers," Morrison corrected firmly. Every ship captain knew the risks. They also knew that their sacrifice would give humanity the data we needed to perfect this technology. Commander Price activated his own displays, showing technical readouts that made the alien scientists lean forward despite their fear. "The quantum displacement drive works by creating temporary bridges between parallel dimensions. We borrow energy from 11 different reality streams simultaneously." "Impossible," muttered a Zeridian technician. "The dimensional barriers cannot be breached without destroying local space-time." "That's what we thought too," Price agreed, "until we realized that the barriers aren't solid walls. They're more like soap bubbles. If you know how to push gently, in exactly the right places, you can slip through without breaking anything." Prime Node 7 projected mechanical sounds that translated as urgent questions. "The energy requirements for such manipulation. How do you contain forces that could consume star systems?" "Very carefully," Price replied, "and only for microsecond intervals. We never hold the dimensional bridges open long enough for dangerous feedback. Think of it as borrowing a cup of sugar from your neighbors if your neighbors happen to live in parallel universes." Lisa Carter watched the alien representatives struggling to understand what they were seeing. These were species that had ruled the galaxy for millennia, confident in their technological superiority. Now they faced the possibility that a younger race had leapfrogged past them entirely. "The displacement drive is just the beginning," Morrison continued. "Commander Price, would you care to explain our weapon systems?" Price's hologram brightened with enthusiasm. "The quantum lance uses focused dimensional energy to delete matter from local spacetime. The target doesn't explode or burn. It simply stops existing in this reality." "Demonstrate," Gextar demanded. "Your words are impressive, but I need To see proof. Morrison glanced at Lisa, who nodded. Very well. Captain Foster, please select a suitable target. Foster consulted her tactical displays. There's an unmanned asteroid approximately 3 light minutes from our current position. Designation KP7741, roughly 2 kilometers in diameter. Perfect, Morrison agreed. All stations, prepare for limited quantum lance demonstration. Target, KP7741. The viewing screens in the conference chamber switched to show the asteroid in question, a tumbling chunk of rock and ice that posed no threat to anyone. Long-range sensors confirmed it was completely lifeless. Quantum lance charging, Price reported. Dimensional bridge stable. Energy levels within acceptable parameters. Fire, Morrison ordered. Nothing visible happened. No beam of light crossed. Space. No explosion lit up the viewing screens. The asteroid simply wasn't there anymore. One moment it existed, spinning slowly against the star field. The next moment there was empty space where it had been. The silence in the conference chamber was profound. Even the station's ambient sounds seemed muted in the face of what they had just witnessed. The asteroid was 3 light minutes away, Zathek said slowly. Light-speed weapons take 3 minutes to reach such a target. Your weapon struck instantaneously. Distance is irrelevant to dimensional manipulation, Price explained. In quantum terms, everything in local space-time is equally accessible. That asteroid was no farther from our weapons than the station you're sitting on. Speaker Glubmoth made worried bubble sounds. How many targets can you engage simultaneously? Currently, about 50, Foster replied. We're working on expanding that number. The limiting factor is processing power, not energy availability. Morrison's expression grew serious. Which brings us to the real conversation we need to have. For the past 6 months, while you've been celebrating humanity's supposed defeat, our scientists have been perfecting technology that makes your most advanced weapons look like stone knives. He gestured, and the holographic displays showed star maps with human colonies marked in blue. Every human world is now protected by quantum displacement networks. Any attack on our territory will result in immediate retaliation against the aggressor's home systems. You're threatening the Council? Gextar growled. I'm explaining the new strategic reality, Morrison corrected. Humanity is no longer the weak, isolated species you thought you were conquering. We're now the people who can appear anywhere, in the galaxy without warning, and delete entire fleets from existence. The alien leaders exchanged worried glances. Their careful plans for human subjugation were crumbling in the face of technology they couldn't counter or even fully understand. What do you want? Zathek asked quietly. Lisa stepped forward. What we've always wanted. Recognition of human sovereignty. Respect for our territorial claims. And the understanding that Earth is no longer asking for permission to exist. Morrison's hologram nodded. The age of human expansion is just beginning, gentlemen. The question is whether you want to be our partners in exploring the galaxy, or obstacles that need to be removed. The implications hung in the air like a sword waiting to fall. Humanity had just announced its intention to become a major galactic power, backed by technology that could make that intention reality. However, Morrison added, we're reasonable people. We're willing to discuss terms for peaceful coexistence, provided, of course, that those terms acknowledge the new balance of power. Lisa smiled. Shall we begin negotiations? I believe humanity has some suggestions that might interest you. War Chieftain Gextar's scarred face twisted with rage as he stood to his full, imposing height. His ceremonial armor caught the chamber's lights, and the trophy weapons at his belt seemed to gleam with their own inner fire. "Enough!" he roared, his voice echoing through the chamber. "I will not sit here and listen to threats from a species that learned to fly between stars barely 50 years ago." He activated his personal communication device with a violent gesture. "All Vorthak vessels, this is War Chieftain Gextar. Assume attack formation. Target the human vessel immediately." Prime Speaker Zathek raised one thin hand. "War Chieftain, perhaps we should consider—" "No," Gextar snarled. "I have heard enough of this human arrogance. One ship, one primitive vessel with a fancy engine. Let them face the might of the Imperial fleet and learn the price of threatening their betters." Admiral Morrison's hologram watched this outburst with calm interest, as if observing a mildly interesting scientific experiment. Captain Foster's image was consulting tactical displays that showed the Vorthak ships moving into formation around Kepler Prime. "Admiral," Foster reported, 18 Vorthak heavy cruisers and 3 dreadnoughts are taking attack positions. They're powering weapons and raising shields." "I see them," Morrison replied. He looked directly at Gextar's furious face. "War Chieftain, I strongly advise you to reconsider. What you're about to attempt will not end well for your ships." "Your ship is outnumbered 21 to 1, Gextar declared. "Even with your tricks, you cannot survive concentrated fire from the Imperial fleet." "You're probably right," Morrison agreed. "If this were a conventional engagement using traditional tactics, the Liberty would likely be destroyed. But you're still thinking in old terms." Commander Price stepped forward in the hologram. "War Chieftain, your ships are targeting our current position. But as I explained, we exist in multiple dimensional states simultaneously. You're shooting at where we appear to be, not where we actually are." Gextar's only response was to activate his fleet communications. "All vessels, commence firing. Destroy the human ship." The space around Kepler Prime erupted in light as 21 Vorthak warships opened fire simultaneously. Energy beams and projectile weapons created a devastating pattern of destruction that would have vaporized any normal vessel. The combined firepower was enough to crack a small moon. When the energy discharge cleared, the UES Liberty hung in space exactly where it had been before, completely undamaged. Not even its hull paint appeared disturbed. "Impossible," whispered a Vorthak tactical officer over the open communication channel. "Not impossible," Morrison corrected gently. "Just operating under different physical laws than you're used to. Captain Foster, would you care to explain what just happened?" Foster's hologram smiled, and it was not a kind expression. "The Vorthak weapons struck a dimensional echo of our ship, a probability shadow that exists in normal space while our actual vessel remained phase-shifted. It's rather like shooting at someone's reflection in a mirror." Gextar was staring at the viewing screens in disbelief. His most powerful ships had delivered everything they had, and the human vessel remained completely unharmed. "This is a trick," he said, but his voice lacked conviction. "Some kind of shield technology." "No shields," Price confirmed. "We don't need them. When you can exist in 11 dimensions simultaneously, enemy weapons become largely irrelevant." Lisa Carter stepped forward, her diplomatic composure intact despite the violence that had just occurred. "War Chieftain, you've just demonstrated exactly why the old ways of thinking about warfare are obsolete. Your ships fired with perfect accuracy, your weapons functioned flawlessly, but you were attacking a target that wasn't really there." Admiral Morrison's expression grew serious. Since you seem determined to learn through practical demonstration, perhaps it's time we showed you the offensive capabilities of quantum displacement technology. He turned to his weapons officer. Commander Kane, are you ready for a precision demonstration? A new hologram appeared, showing a stern-faced woman with the bearing of someone who understood destructive forces better than most people understood arithmetic. Commander Lisa Kane consulted her displays with professional detachment. All quantum lance arrays are operational, Admiral, Kane reported. Dimensional bridges are stable across multiple target zones. Excellent. Please identify a suitable demonstration. Target. Kane studied her tactical screens. There's an uninhabited moon approximately 27 light-years from our current position. No life signs, no mineral value, no strategic importance. Designation Echo 7. Morrison nodded. Perfect. All stations, prepare for extended-range quantum lance demonstration. Target, Echo 7. Zathek's black eyes widened as he processed the implications. 27 light-years? That's impossible. No weapon can reach such distances. Traditional weapons can't, Kane agreed. But quantum manipulation treats distance as a largely irrelevant concept. In dimensional terms, that moon is as close to us as your flagship. The viewing screens changed to show the distant moon, a gray, cratered sphere orbiting a lifeless gas giant. Long-range sensors confirmed it was completely barren. Quantum lance charging, Kane reported. Multi-dimensional targeting lock acquired. All systems show green. Hold position, Morrison ordered. He looked directly at Gextar. War Chieftain, this moon is 27 light-years away. Even the fastest messenger ship would take weeks to reach it, using conventional faster-than-light travel. Watch carefully. Fire, Morrison commanded. Once again, nothing visible happened. No energy beam crossed space. No explosion lit up the distant target. But the moon simply ceased to exist. 27 light-years away, a celestial body that had orbited its planet for millions of years was deleted from reality in an instant. The silence in the conference chamber was absolute. Even the station's environmental systems seemed to pause in shock. Confirmed kill, Kane reported matter-of-factly. Target Echo 7 has been successfully removed from local space-time. No debris detected. Speaker Glubmoth made a sound like water, draining from a broken pipe. The moon, it's just gone. Completely gone, Kane confirmed. Quantum lance technology doesn't destroy matter. It simply convinces matter that it would prefer to exist elsewhere. Morrison's gaze swept across the assembled alien representatives. Gentlemen, ladies, and energy beings. What you've just witnessed is a minor demonstration of humanity's new capabilities. Commander Kane, how many targets can we currently engage simultaneously? 17 separate targets at full power, Kane replied. 53 at reduced intensity. The limiting factor is processing power, not available energy. And our current target list includes? Kane consulted her displays. Every major military installation, fleet concentration, and strategic facility within a 50 light-year radius. All targets are locked and ready for engagement. The implications hit the alien leaders like a physical blow. Humanity could destroy their most important assets instantly, without warning, from impossible distances. This is madness, Gextar whispered. You would threaten entire civilizations? We're not threatening anyone, Morrison replied calmly. We're explaining the new strategic reality. Humanity is no longer a minor species asking for permission to exist. We're now the people who can reach anywhere in the galaxy and modify local reality according to our needs. Lisa stepped forward. The question, War Chieftain, is whether you want to be our friend or our example. Because frankly, we're prepared for either option. The age of alien superiority had just ended with the disappearance of a distant moon. The conference chamber had become a tomb of silence. War Chieftain Gextar sat heavily in his chair, his massive frame seeming to shrink as the reality of humanity's demonstration sank in. The ceremonial weapons at his belt, trophies of 100, conquered worlds, suddenly looked like children's toys. Prime Speaker Zathek was frantically working with his computational systems, trying to find some mathematical solution to an impossible equation. His thin fingers moved across holographic displays, showing energy calculations that refused to make sense. The power requirements, he muttered to himself. To manipulate matter across such distances, it should require the energy output of an entire star system. Commander Dan Price's hologram overheard the comment. That's what we thought initially. Our theoretical physicists spent months hitting the same wall. Then Dr. Amy Chen had a breakthrough. What breakthrough? Zathek asked, his scientific curiosity overriding his fear. She realized we were thinking about it backwards, Price explained. We don't need to generate enough energy to manipulate matter across 27 light-years. We need to convince reality that the distance doesn't exist in the first place. Impossible, whispered a Zeridian scientist. Highly improbable, Price corrected. But as it turns out, the universe is surprisingly cooperative if you ask nicely. Quantum mechanics already proves that particles can exist in multiple states simultaneously. We just scaled that up to starship-sized objects. Speaker Glubmoth's throat pouch was inflating and deflating rapidly, a sign of extreme stress among his species. The targeting system. How do you lock onto objects you cannot see? Commander Lisa Kane stepped forward in the hologram. We don't target objects, Speaker. We target probability coordinates. Every piece of matter in the universe has a specific quantum signature. Once we know that signature, distance becomes irrelevant. Admiral Morrison watched the alien leaders struggling to process concepts that challenged everything they thought they knew about physics. The truly elegant part is that the system becomes more accurate over longer distances. Quantum uncertainty actually works in our favor. Captain Helen Foster was monitoring her tactical displays. Admiral, we're detecting increased communications, traffic among the alien fleets. They're requesting instructions from their home governments. Natural reaction, Morrison observed. They're realizing that everything they thought they knew about military strategy just became obsolete. Lisa Carter stepped into the center of the chamber, her diplomatic training allowing her to remain calm while watching entire galactic civilizations reevaluate their place in the universe. This is the new reality, she announced to the assembled representatives. Humanity is no longer the junior species asking for permission to exist. We're now the civilization that can appear anywhere without warning and reshape local reality, according to our needs. Gextar finally found his voice, though it was much quieter than before. Your technology, how many ships possess these capabilities? Currently, just the Liberty, Morrison admitted. But our shipyards are working around the clock. We expect to have 12 displacement-capable vessels operational within 6 months. 12 ships to police the entire galaxy? Zathek asked. 12 ships that can be anywhere in the galaxy simultaneously? Morrison corrected. Traditional. Concepts of fleet concentration and territorial defense don't apply when your forces can exist in multiple locations at once, Prime Node 7 projected electronic sounds that translated as desperate calculation. The strategic implications: every defensive position becomes meaningless, every fleet concentration becomes vulnerable, every stronghold becomes a target. Now, you're beginning to understand, Lisa said. The age of territorial conquest through superior numbers is over. The age of technological superiority has begun. Captain Foster consulted her displays. Admiral, I'm detecting weapon systems powering down across the alien fleets. Their commanders are apparently reconsidering their tactical options. Wise of them, Morrison observed. Captain, please transmit our current target list to all fleet commanders. Let them see exactly what they're risking if hostilities continue. The viewing screens throughout the chamber lit up with tactical data showing thousands of targets across dozens of star systems. Military bases, fleet concentrations, industrial facilities, and strategic installations were all marked with quantum lance targeting coordinates. These are our priority targets, Kane explained matter-of-factly. Every major military asset within 50 light-years, all currently locked and ready for immediate engagement. A Vorthak fleet commander's voice crackled over the communication. System. War Chieftain. Request permission to withdraw to safe distance. Our vessels cannot engage a target that exists in multiple dimensions. Gextar looked around the chamber at faces that reflected his own shock and growing fear. Granted, he said quietly. All vessels, withdraw to defensive positions. A reasonable decision, Morrison acknowledged. Commander Kane, please remove Vorthak targets from active lock status. No point in making our new friends nervous. Lisa smiled at the word friends, though she doubted the aliens appreciated the irony. Now then, perhaps we can discuss more productive topics. Humanity has some proposals for restructuring galactic relationships. She activated her own holographic display, showing star maps with human territories clearly marked. These are humanity's current territorial claims. As you can see, we're requesting formal recognition of our sovereignty over a 50 light-year sphere centered on Earth. 50 light-years? Zathek protested. That includes systems currently controlled by 3 different council species. Systems that are now under human protection, Lisa corrected. Their current inhabitants are welcome to remain under our territorial government, or they can relocate to other areas with council assistance. Gextar was staring at the map with growing alarm. You're demanding we abandon colonies we've held for centuries. We're offering you the opportunity to withdraw peacefully, Lisa clarified. The alternative is that we remove your military presence forcibly. I think we've demonstrated that we have the capability. Morrison's hologram stepped forward. War Chieftain, I want to be clear about something. Humanity doesn't want to rule the galaxy. We want to be left alone to develop in peace. But we're no longer willing to ask permission from species that view us as potential subjects. What about trade relationships? Speaker Glubmoth asked nervously. Cultural exchange? Scientific cooperation? All welcome, Lisa assured him. Humanity values peaceful interaction with other species, but those interactions will be between equals, not between masters and servants. Prime Node 7 flickered with electronic distress. The Council authority, the established order, is being replaced by a new order, Morrison finished. One where technological advancement matters more than ancient traditions. One where innovation trumps established power structures. The implications were staggering. The Galactic Council, which had maintained order for thousands of years, was being told that its authority no longer mattered. A single human ship had just rendered their entire military structure obsolete. "You're talking about revolution," Zathek said slowly. "We're talking about evolution," Lisa corrected. "The galaxy is about to become a much more interesting place. The question is whether you want to evolve with it or be left behind." Morrison checked his chronometer. "I'm afraid we need to conclude this demonstration. The Liberty has other appointments to keep." "Other appointments?" Gextar asked with growing dread. "Oh yes," Morrison smiled. "We're scheduled to make similar presentations to the home governments of every council species. Diplomacy is so much more effective when everyone understands the stakes." The alien leaders realized with horror that this was just the beginning. Humanity wasn't just challenging the local balance of power. They were announcing their intention to reshape galactic civilization itself. "Gentlemen, ladies, and energy beings," Lisa said formally, "humanity thanks you for this productive discussion. We look forward to your responses to our proposals." The age of human expansion was no longer a possibility. It had become inevitable. 3 hours later, the conference chamber on Kepler Prime had transformed from a stage for human humiliation into the birthplace of a new galactic order. The alien representatives sat around the circular table, their earlier arrogance replaced by the careful calculations of beings who had just discovered they were no longer at the top of the food chain. Ambassador Lisa Carter stood before a holographic display showing the revised structure of galactic governance. The familiar council hierarchy had been quietly reorganized to include a new tier of membership that didn't exist before today. "The proposal is quite simple," Lisa explained to the assembled delegates. "Humanity requests immediate admission to the Galactic Council with full voting rights and permanent representation on the Security Committee." War Chieftain Gextar's scarred face showed the strain of processing this final indignity. "You demand a permanent seat? Such positions are earned through centuries of service to galactic civilization, or through demonstrated capability to reshape galactic civilization," Lisa replied smoothly. "I believe we've provided adequate evidence of our qualifications." Prime Speaker Zathek was consulting his computational systems again, running probability analyses that kept producing results. He didn't want to believe. The mathematics are clear. Resistance would result in systematic destruction of Council military assets. "Not destruction," corrected Admiral Morrison, whose hologram maintained its position at the head of the table. "Removal. Our quantum lance. Technology doesn't destroy matter. It simply convinces matter to exist elsewhere." Captain Ryan Bell stepped forward with a formal document displayed on his tablet. "The Earth government has prepared a comprehensive proposal for peaceful coexistence. The terms are quite reasonable." He activated the holographic display, showing a detailed framework for galactic relationships that placed humanity as an equal partner rather than a subordinate species. "First," Ryan read, "immediate recognition of human territorial sovereignty over all systems within 50 light-years of Earth. Second, establishment of formal diplomatic relations between Earth and all Council species. Third, unrestricted human access to galactic trade networks and communication systems." Speaker Glubmoth made nervous bubbling sounds. "These they grant humanity everything we refused to offer just hours ago." "The situation has changed," Lisa observed. "Hours ago, you believed humanity was defeated and defenseless. Now you understand that we're neither." The Luxian representative, Prime Node 7, projected mechanical sounds that translated as resigned acceptance. "The logical conclusion is clear. Resistance offers no beneficial outcomes. Cooperation provides optimal survival probability. Morrison's hologram smiled at the energy being's pragmatic assessment. Prime Node 7 has grasped the essential point. This isn't about conquest or domination. It's about mutual respect between technological equals. Equals? Gextar's voice carried bitter irony. You possess weapons that can delete matter from across the galaxy. How does that make us equals? Because we choose to use that advantage responsibly, Morrison replied. Humanity could have opened this conversation by removing your homeworlds from existence. Instead, we've offered partnership and cooperation. Commander Dan Price stepped forward in the hologram. The quantum displacement technology will eventually be shared with Council species, assuming peaceful relationships can be established. Scientific advancement benefits everyone when it's approached cooperatively. The alien leaders exchanged surprised glances. They had expected demands for tribute or submission, not offers of technological sharing. You would share such capabilities? Zathek asked carefully. Under appropriate circumstances, Lisa confirmed. Humanity believes that galactic civilization advances most effectively when all species can contribute their unique strengths. Captain Helen Foster was monitoring communications from the alien fleets. Admiral, I'm receiving formal requests for ceasefire from all hostile vessels. They're requesting permission to power down weapons and return to normal patrol status. Granted, Morrison replied. Please transmit our appreciation for their professional conduct during these discussions. Lisa consulted her chronometer and nodded to Ryan, who activated a new section of the holographic display. The Earth government has also prepared a formal application for council membership. We believe the documentation will meet all standard requirements. The application appeared as a floating document that each delegate could examine in detail. It included comprehensive data on human civilization, technological capabilities, territorial claims, and diplomatic objectives. This is highly irregular, Gextar protested. Council membership requires years of evaluation and gradual integration. Traditional membership procedures, Lisa agreed. But I think we can all acknowledge that humanity's situation is somewhat non-traditional. Prime Node 7 projected electronic agreement. Standard evaluation procedures assume the applicant species cannot threaten existing council structure. This assumption no longer applies. Morrison's expression grew serious. Let me be completely clear about something. Humanity is joining the Galactic Council. The only question is whether we join as partners or as conquerors. I strongly recommend the partnership option. The implications hung in the air like a sword waiting to fall. The alien leaders could either accept humanity as an equal member of galactic civilization, or face the systematic dismantling of everything they had built over thousands of years. Speaker Glubmoth spoke first, his voice carrying the wisdom of someone who had survived long enough to recognize inevitable change. The Corvani delegation supports human admission to the Council. Full membership with voting rights. The Luxian Collective concurs, Prime Node 7 projected. Logical analysis indicates optimal outcomes through cooperative integration. Zathek looked at his tactical displays showing human weapons still locked onto targets throughout Zeridian space. The Zeridian Collective agrees to support human membership. All eyes turned to Gextar, whose scarred features showed the strain of accepting defeat without actually losing a battle. The Vorthak Empire. He paused, struggling with words that would reshape galactic history. The Vorthak Empire acknowledges human qualifications for council membership. Lisa smiled, and for the first time since entering the chamber, it was a genuinely warm expression. Thank you all. I believe this marks the beginning of a very productive relationship. Morrison's hologram began to fade as the Liberty prepared to depart. Ambassador Carter, the Security Committee meeting has been scheduled for next week. We'll be there to assume our permanent seat. Our permanent seat, Lisa repeated, savoring the words. After today, I don't think anyone will question humanity's right to be there. As the UES Liberty began its departure sequence, space around, Kepler Prime rippled with dimensional distortions. The massive battleship didn't simply fly away. It faded from normal space-time, existing briefly in multiple dimensions before disappearing entirely. Ryan closed his tablet and gathered the formal documents. Ma'am, Earth Command is requesting a full report. Tell them the mission was successful, Lisa replied. Humanity is no longer asking for permission to exist in the galaxy. She looked around the chamber at the alien faces that reflected shock, fear, and grudging respect. Representatives of species that had ruled the stars for millennia had just voted to admit a race they'd considered primitive barbarians barely hours before. Gentlemen, ladies, and energy beings, she said formally, I look forward to our next meeting. I believe we have a great deal of productive work ahead of us. As Lisa and Ryan left the conference chamber, walking past alien delegates who were still struggling to process what had just happened, the galaxy began adjusting to its new reality. The age of human expansion had begun not with conquest, but with a simple demonstration that conquest was no longer necessary. When you could appear anywhere without warning and reshape reality according to your needs, formal recognition of your authority became a foregone conclusion. Humanity had stepped onto the galactic stage not as supplicants begging for acceptance, but as technological giants offering partnership to those wise enough to accept it. The universe would never be the same.